Hello, everyone. My name is Stanley St. Rose, and today we're going to be talking about the Little Red Book written by Mao Zedong, or quotes of Mao Zedong. Now, before I go into summary analysis of this work, please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and or comment so that the channel can continue to grow. Now, this work by Mao Zedong, it's a collection of quotes, a collection of essays, a collection of works or written works by Mao Zedong, and this Little Red Book was very, mandatory in the revolution, the cultural revolution of China. This Little Red Book, the quotes in it are chilling, the thoughts in it are chilling. They talk a lot about communism. They talk a lot about Mao's political ideology, what he thinks about communism, what he thinks about how to run a country. One of the quotes from this book is political power comes from the barrel of a gun. So basically, we from that quote, you can see that Mao Zedong believed that whoever has the biggest gun has more political power. In terms of analysis and deep meaning, right there, we can say that in some ways that is true. If you're a country, I mean, the bigger your army, the bigger guns you have, the more you can say. I mean, in the U.S., we have that famous quote, speak softly and carry a big stick. I mean, we have that same saying in the U.S., that's that same idea that we have in the U.S., speak softly and carry a big stick. I mean, that same quote, it's said in a different way, but Mao Zedong says political power comes from the barrel of your gun. Especially, that's just the truth. There's any way you look at it, any way you say it, different presidents, different leaders, including Chairman Mao, they've understood that to have some political power, to have some power in the world as a country, you need to have a big stick or power that comes from the barrel of your gun. Quotes from this book also, it also says that women carry half of the sky. So that's an interesting one that talks about the importance of women in society, in politics, in government. That's an interesting idea, interesting ideal, interesting ideology about the importance of women, that they carry half the sky. You can interpret that in many different ways of how important women are to a country's success and prosperity. So that's another quote. Another quote is that that I'm paraphrasing here, but a communist, or Mao Zedong pretty much tells that communists need to accept that all political power comes from the barrel of a gun. So he really emphasizes the power that comes from the barrel of your gun. You need to have power. You need to have you can interpret it in terms of you need to have a military, you need to have weapons, you need to have systems to fight your enemies. And other quotes go along the lines of, communism is a big hammer to smash your enemies. I mean, that's another paraphrase, but that's along the lines of messages and phrases within this Little Red Book. You need to have a big hammer. Communism is a big hammer to smash your enemies. So Mao Zedong really gets to the point here in telling you that you need big weapons. You need to hit your enemies hard. A lot of the quotes have the essence of figure out your enemy's weakness. Hit them where they're weak. Exploit their weaknesses. Hit them with your big hammer. Make sure that you have power from your gun to eliminate them. Some other quotes are kind of chilling, because he has one that says reading too much books. Again, another paraphrase. This is not word by word quotes, but there's another paraphrase. It's kind of like, the quote is like, if you read too much books, it's not good. Which is kind of chilling, because reading is important. It's important to understand what you're doing. It's important to understand how politics work, how business works. If you're the government of a country, you need to have smart people who read books and read things that are going on, newspapers, information, however you want to say it. reading is not evil. Reading is not bad. I do not like that quote, but that's what he believed, and that's what he told the young people of China that don't read too much book. This is why during the Cultural Revolution, a lot of people burned books. A whole Fahrenheit 51, 451 here. They were burning books. They were, of course, killing people. But yeah, no reading. That's not permitted. Um, so that one was not a good quote that I like. But pretty much I gave you guys the idea of what the Little Red Book, what's in the Little Red Book, what the speeches and essays and quotes, the theme and the collective idea of these quotations. Pretty much the Little Red Book, it was mandatory. People read them at meetings. Soldiers had to read them. Students had to read them. Political parties and members had to read them. This was like a little red Bible for them, because everybody lived by this little red book. It is the symbol of the Mao Zedong leadership. It's the Chairman Mao. This little red book quotes from Mao Zedong. It's literally, at this time you needed to have it. You needed to read it because it was the ideology. It was the political ideology, the social standard. All of that came from this book, of how that communism was going to be the ultimate government around the world. How you need to smash your enemies. How you need to, Chinese people need to rise up, and how young people need to rise up and change the world with communism. And this revolution, of course, killed a lot of people. Millions of people died. Destruction, and continuous revolution. He also calls for continuous revolution, which is not something you want. You want some stability. You want some. You don't want to keep burning and destroying and killing. That is not a good idea for a country. But those are some ideas that came from this little red book. Now, again, there's this book led a country. The ideas from Mao Zedong, from his speeches, from his essays, it led a country for a long time. If you weren't, if you didn't agree with it, you could have lost your life. And now it's not as popular, or China is not primarily following, um, you know, this little red book. Nowadays China is very much about business, about making money. We can see the essence of capitalism in business and industry in China, and factories in China. So China is not all about the ideas that come from this book, but this is, if you want to understand the Cultural Revolution, the leadership of Chairman Mao, how he led the country, and how the country existed under his rule. This little red book, just the ideas, just the quotations about carrying a big hammer, getting political power from the barrel of your gun. Ideas about women and students and young people, how they're supposed to bring on the revolution. It gives you a great idea of the thinking and the ideology that ruled China during this time period of Mao Zedong. Um, but pretty much that is the little red book. That's what's in it. It's quotations from Mao Zedong, ideas, thoughts, figures, essays, speeches about communism, about how to gain political power, and pretty much how he was leading the country, the ideas behind the man that was leading the country. But that's Little Red Book. You can pretty much fill yourself up with individual quotes about what he says about government and people. It's not a narrative. It's literally political ideas, ideologies, and theories about how to carry a country, about how to make China a better country, and that's what's at the core of it. In terms of deeper meaning and analysis, it's quite brutal. It's quite ruthless. These quotes call for action, for military action. It calls for physical action. It calls for women, young people to act for their country. There were lots of book burnings. There was lots of violence. Because again, this book, the call of actions in this book, this red book, does call for abolishing capitalism, fighting for your country, and using your big hammer, and making sure that you have political power, and having power of the gun. So you know, when you're calling for revolution, you do need those things. But ultimately, this did not result in a wonderful reality for China. But that's pretty much an understanding of the Little Red Book, quotes of Mao Zedong, of what's in this book, what it's about. Please remember to give a like, subscribe, and or comment, and I'll see you guys in the next video.